code Nama Om Vishnu Pathaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Shmati Bhakti Vedanta Swamti Namane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Bhuchaline Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satanine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so Mother Mongol Prabhu has his hand up there, so you can begin. You've all got your Bhagavad Gitas there. So text 61 then, Modern Mongol Peru. You can read the Sanskrit if you can. We're doing, for Bhagavad Gita, we're chanting the Sanskrit. It's a little bit easier, the verses here.
Tani sarvani samyamya yakta ashita matparaha vashehi ashyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of a steady intelligence. That's the highest conception of yoga, perfection, is Krishna consciousness. It's clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durva Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish, and Durva Muni unnecessarily become angry out of pride and therefore could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not a powerful yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sage's injustice and thereby emerges victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications, as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam 9:4-18:20. Savai Manaha Krishna Padara Vindayor Vachamsi Vaikunta Guna
Karohari Mandir
Anadishu Shrutim Chakara Yukta Sat Kathadaye Mukunda Ling Kalaya Darshane Drishau Tat Pritiya Gatras Prasen Sangamam Griranam Chatapadasa Sarujashpura Srimad Tulasya
Asanam Tatapite
Padav Harihe Kshetra Padanu Shampane Shiro Hrishikesha Padapi Vandane Kamam Chadasyena Tu Kama Kama Yaya Yat Hota Tama Sloka Jana Shrayarati.
Right, well done. Thank you. He's quite brave.
Fixed his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna. Engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in smelling the fragrance of the flowers offering to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulasi leaves offered to the Lord, his legs in traveling to the holy places where his temple is situated, his head in offering obeisances into the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all this qualification made him fit to become a Matpara devotee of the Lord. The Lord Matpara is most significant in this connection. How one can become Matpara is described in the life of Maharaj Ambarish. Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushana, a great scholar and acharya in the line of the Matpara, remarks Mat Bhakti Prabhavena Sarvandriya Vijaya Pavrika Svatma Drishti Shu Labheti Bhava. The sense can be completely controlled only by the strength of the devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. As a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes medication on Vishnu and not medication on the void. The so-called yogis who medicate on something other than the Vishnu form simply waste their time in a vain searching after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devotee to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of the real yoga.
Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you. So in just reading an interesting comment here, you see the word that Prabhupada focuses on in the purple, matpada. Then he gives Maharaj Ambarish as an example of such a matpada devotee. This is an exalted devotee whose senses have no function outside of the service of the Lord. Yeah, completely absorbed in their loving devotion service to the Lord. But this is the first time, this is the first verse where Krishna uses the term, or he directs Arjuna or us, consequently, he's directing us to meditate upon him. He fixes his consciousness upon me. So this is emphasizing bhakti. It's the first time that Krishna has mentioned directly about surrendering or meditating upon himself. Matpada, so it means in relationship to me. So in other words, Krishna is the object of devotion. So as I mentioned, the word yoga means to link as well, and it's another name for bhakti. So whenever it's mentioned, unto me, offer to me, fix your mind upon me, here, fix your consciousness upon me, that is bhakti. That is directly bhakti. Yeah, so I thought interesting there. I've never seen that. I've read Bhagavad Gita so many times, but I've never come across that. This is the first time here, matpada. And trying to look at the word matpada in the verses of Maharaj Ambarish. Perhaps it's in the translation of Shia, matpada. All these qualifications made him fit to become a matpada devotee of the Lord. Yeah. And yeah, anyway, any other questions or comments about this? The previous verse, yeah, describes Krishna was speaking about to be on guard, to be aware of our senses. Because even though we know about the dangers of uncontrolled sense gratification, we can be carried away. It didn't last verse said, the mind can carry away someone. And later on it says, just like a boat on the ocean is blown by the wind. So it comes up again, and then a series of verses coming after this. You will recognize the verses coming up, 62, 63, and 64. They're a set of verses together, which describes the process of falling into the material world and the process of continued birth and death. So this is what we have to do. It is up to us to control our senses. Krishna's not going to do it for us. We have to choose. Yeah, you can either choose to eat boga or prashadam. It's really up to you. It's really up to us. So we have to engage as senses in Krishna's service. Krishna's not going to stop you from engaging in material life. Yeah, it's up to us to make that decision. Of course, Krishna will help us by showing us the futility of engaging in material life, because he's out of his kindness, we will hopefully fail poorly. But any other comments or questions here? This verse, incidentally, Savaimana Krishnapada Vindyo, comes up another 2 times in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada quotes all 3 verses, I think 2 times actually. Elsewhere he quotes. I think it might be again coming up. All right, so let's go to the next verse. And I think a lot of you will recognize this verse, if not the Sanskrit, definitely the translation. So Mavalavanga, you have your hand there. You can read text 62. So remember, this is describing the process of attachment to the material world, where it begins and where it takes us.
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yato visayam pumsa sangastasu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamat krodo vijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects, and the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above-mentioned verse of Yeshua Munacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. This is the secret of success. One who is not, therefore, in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his senses.
Okay. So that's where it begins, contemplation. So just by looking at the material world and contemplating it, you develop it's called, the word is a Shakti, and let's see what's words used for attachment. Shangat or Sangat, that's from attachment. And then, as the verse explains, but it says that lust develops. That means you desire to engage in, and you make plans to engage in. So it starts with contemplation. Yeah, I think we give the example, perhaps a more innocent example, that if you say you're looking at a cheesecake and you're meditating, then you start to perhaps salivate, then you start to meditate, and then you eventually engage in the process of buying it and eating it. But at least anger doesn't come from eating cheesecake.
But lust can be material, yeah? Material.
Yeah, I'm just giving a more innocent example, but basically, but more, as Prabhupada highlights in the purple, it's definitely takes its form of attraction to sex. But lust can also mean any form of wanting to control or enjoy. And when it says that anger arises, because lust, like fire, or it can never be satisfied. So generally, it will lead to frustration. And from lust, anger arises. I think that's described a bit more in the next verse. Yeah, well, contemplate, yeah, and from lust, anger arises. So there's a certain, because we're, we're spirit soul. So what can really give us satisfaction is Krishna. So there's a certain type of dissatisfaction, which is not always noticed immediately. But so when it says anger, it doesn't necessarily, although it might do, it doesn't necessarily mean that someone throws a tantrum and they throw things around or they speak harshly.
It's the steadiness. The steadiness. You lose the steadiness.
Yeah, it can mean that, but generally it manifests as a disenchantment and a delusion and a disenchantment with the material world and a depression. They become bitter. Yep, that's their outlook becomes very negative because they're trying to engage their senses. They engage their senses in sense enjoyment, but then that's pumsa surani mutini bhavam. Then that entangles them in the material world, and then they become disenchanted, etc., etc. So it generally refers to that, but it can also mean direct anger and frustration. Yeah. Like, I think I've mentioned this, I don't know if I should mention it. It's a bit of a, I don't know, but I guess I've seen sometimes on Sankirtan, or sometimes when I remember when there's a so-called attractive lady walking down the street and it's the summertime and not wearing much. And then sometimes I watch the men watching a lady and that they really, some persons become really, you can see that they become like, I don't know how to explain. They become almost their anger. They become very, what's the word? Anger. Yeah. They become very angry and they look at her with disdain and disgust, in the sense that because society doesn't allow them, otherwise they get put in prison. But there's a frustration, I don't know if what I'm trying to explain makes sense, but it doesn't look like they're very peaceful and very happy. They can look at very, very frustrated sometimes, Anyway, some Sankirtan observations.
Especially this age now, when all the girls are, it's like a trend to be more naked than dressed.
Well, it's not now. It's been like that for
a long time.
Since the 50s and 60s going on. But anyway, so we, in the purple, I think Mother Chandravali brought up about Haridas Thakur just yesterday. He passed the test of Maya Devi. So that's mentioned here. Lord Shiva's been brought up again. That was, we mentioned about Lord Shiva yesterday. That was in regards to Mohini Murti. And here he gave birth to Kartikeya. Yeah. Any other questions about this, or curiosities or comments?
I just, the expression about this, seeing this lady. To me, I would think that people just look at men, ladies dressed in different ways, as just, you're not interested, but you just look because it's something different.
Yeah, that's, I mean, like that's there as well. Yeah.
I don't think you have any kind of desires or anything like that. It's just not nice and it's unusual and fine. You looked at it and get on with it. You pass,
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's there as well. But I think it's also what I said as well.
Is it somehow Kamadev also involved in this?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Because when we walk on the street, even if you are not interested, somehow there is a pull there, which it always happens.
Different.
Even if you don't want to look, even if you don't feel any desire, somehow in the mind there is deep inside rooted, how you say, a root of always man is interested, or I don't know, man, woman is always attracted and somehow is the most difficult thing to get rid of this desire somehow, even if it's not a desire and you understand that it's still something there.
Yeah, because there's a verse which I was referring to, Pumsa Sriya Mutini Bhavam. It's a basic principle of material existence. That's how material existence continues, based on the attraction between male and female. And also because the atmosphere is quite a passionate atmosphere. So it's not like walking in the mountains when we're walking up Oxford Street, for example. So just that being in that atmosphere, it can give rise to sensual thoughts. So just being in that place, you know. So that's why we have to be Krishna conscious. But yeah, that's because that's the basic, that's what makes the material world move. You know, so yes.
I always remember that example Prabhupada gave about an old man, 90 years or something. And he says he told somebody, like, bring your daughter and see what happens, you know. Do you remember that kind?
Yeah, that's where he was told that he thought that as you age, then then you lose the desire, you know, you lose attraction to the opposite sex, so to speak. So age, because you know. So he said, yeah, and what happened, I think the story is that he went to see a dying man, or they went to see a man who's dying, and he said, please, you bring your daughter with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he went to see this dying man, and this dying man was he was, you know, on the verge of death, and he was just gazing at his daughter. It was, yeah.
Do you remember, Modi Prabhu, when we were once in the temple and this lady came, and I came to you shaking, she was mesmerizing all the men in the temple. She was looking for a husband.
I can't remember that.
So powerful, so mystical. She had that all the men went really like very strange in the temple. She was very young by herself. She was looking for a husband, but she could not talk properly. That was very strange because all the men went like, oh, we didn't know what to do. So I just ran in the temple and I went to Murli Prabhu. I said, Murli Prabhu, please, what should I do? I can't. It was very strange, like someone put a spell on you.
What did I do? What did I say?
What did you do?
She just told me to be very careful. And this lady, in the end, she found a man. She said, can we go to your home? But it was very strange. I don't know. She was going to every brahmachari, every man. She was going and asking.
I can't remember that. Mohini Murti then came. But something else I was going to say then. Yeah, I remember Mahavishnu Maharaj described one time he went to see all due respect, he went to see a godbrother of his who was in hospital, coming to the end of his life. And so he went, and Maharaj came back, and I said, so Maharaj, how was it? You know, how was he? How expecting, you know, he's really, and Maharaj, he said, he's not ready. I said, what do you mean he's not ready? He said, yeah, he's not ready to go back to Godhead. Then Maharaj was quiet. So I kind of, Maharaj could see I was interested how he came to that conclusion. He said, when I was there, he was just looking at all the young nurses. He was just looking at all the nurses. This is person. I don't think he had been practicing. He had gone away from Krishna consciousness for some time, and he come back, and then he got cancer. So Maharaj went to see him in his last weeks or something, and he came back from the hospital with the conclusion, no, he's not ready to go back to Godhead yet. Because he said, yeah, he was there, and he kept on looking at, you know, he was contemplating the objects of the senses, so developing attachment for them, etc. So that's why we have to be. That's why we have to be like the tortoise. We have to withdraw as senses. Yeah.
Sorry,
Right.
Can I ask you something?
Please, Mother. Yes.
Yeah. Just we propagate Vedic culture, not Hindu, not Indian or what. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of our culture is to be decent and to dress. Mama Chandravali probably will be laughing at me now because it's headache. You know why? Because we propagate Vedic culture. In Vedic culture, woman with loose hair would never go out. It's considered she's a prostitute or she's mad, insane. Yeah. What's happening? Why so many ladies, even with initiated, having initiation, by coming to the temple in front of deities with loose hair, by showing example for young devotees that you can look like a prostitute and that's fine. Even to service, to pujari service, I saw ladies even married by coming with loose hair. It's a shameful. They propagate not Vedic culture, and nobody is saying, because if we went to another temple in India, they say dress appropriately. I understand that outside temple we can do whatever we want, but in the temple we have to respect deities, especially when they come sexualized, all sexualized with energy in front of Krishna. Radharani will get jealous because they want to get Krishna. They'll be in trouble.
Radharani is going to be too bothered.
No, he's going to be bothered. Don't worry, Prabhu, because it's embarrassing. It's a shame, and it's taking us a standard now. You understand? It's taking us a standard. I was in Harinam with Mahavishnu Prabhu was, yeah, and one lady, big like a cobalt, yeah, with loose hair in front of him, swish, 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 swish. He turns another side. He goes away. She's in front of him, jumps again, swish, swish. He didn't know where to hide from her, you know.
Yeah.
Eventually, he ran away from Bahari now. I was embarrassed, Prabhu. I'm being serious. I've never seen that before, but now it's getting standard. Surpanaka's standard, Surpanaka's fashion. I'm being serious, Prabhu. Initiated mother just coming with mini skirts, mini dresses, naked legs, with loose hair, sexualized. If I was a husband, my wife would go with loose hair, I would die, because it shows that she's mating, she's looking for another husband. It means I'm no good. You understand what's happening? And we're seducing brahmacharis. And when we're crying, somebody raped me, somebody did something. It's embarrassing. That's I can't go to the temple. I cannot go on Sundays. I cannot go to Harinams because it's embarrassing for me. I'm being serious. It's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame to see initiated ladies with loose hair coming to the temple for mating. I'm being serious. I don't know. I'm going to probably to write letter to GBC or something. At least you put note, dress yourself appropriately. This is not in the temple. Outside temple, we can do whatever we want. We have lives, of course. But in the temple, we should have shame. It's a big issue. It's a big issue, and it's coming down and worse. I told my mentees that girls, if you're going to be loose hair in the temple, in front and show example, it's not going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a crossover of cultures, which a lot of quite a few, as you're observing, devotees or those who become devotees don't always see the importance of the culture, or don't always take up aspects of the Vedic culture, of the Gaudiya Vaishnava, or the culture of a Vedic society. So therefore you got persons, and they have an interest in Krishna consciousness, but then they're not ready, or they're not even aware of the need to adopt some of the cultural aspects of Krishna consciousness. Because in Vedic times, it was very, as we know from Srimad Bhagavatam and Prabhupada's conversations and purports, he explains very clearly about the dharma of a man, especially the dharma of a woman. Like, for example, one time we have, because I do some service of the DD worship ministry, and we have a picture where someone had dressed Radharani not with a middle parting in her hair, but with a side parting. So there's a letter from Prabhupada where he says that in the Vedic culture, a lady with a parting on the side of her head, that indicates that she's a prostitute.
So you see,
and we know where, for instance, having a bindi in the forehead, it means that that lady is married, or if the lady is not dressed very nicely, it means that the husband is away. is
exactly.
away from home,
Yeah, and she's looking
etc.
for yeah.
Yeah, so it's just the fact that some devotees are not educated in this aspect of Krishna consciousness. Now, I don't think there's much we can do in a temple which is as public and in the center of London as our Pacific temple.
No,
It's
we cannot
very
do
hard.
for public. Yeah,
Yeah,
for public we
we
cannot
have
do.
spoke of, no, we have contemplated in the past on the temple council, but to have that on reception, they're told of a particular dress code to actually follow. But you try and the poor receptionist, say for instance, if we have a dress code that ladies can't come with short skirts or revealing tops, that means that the person on reception has got to analyze every lady that comes in.
No problem. No,
I'm just let me
anyway,
finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Oh,
So
sorry.
I'm just saying. So, and it's a little bit hard to. Although if it's extreme, then I know Tripad says something because Tripad doesn't like it as well. He doesn't like it when persons come in with no regard to the religious or to the spiritual atmosphere. You know, they come in like they come into a disco. Sometimes the way they dress.
Yes,
But to actually control it completely, it's difficult. But at least in our Sangha groups, we can educate devotees, just like you're doing.
Yeah,
So that,
or at least
sorry?
maybe gurus can instruct their female disciples that, you
Yeah.
know, when you the temple, they can say that. I mean, there's nothing
Yeah,
bad about it.
yeah. My Guru Maharaj is quite strict on that, and I think
Yeah.
Also Bhaktivinoda Maharaj expects his disciples to take on the Vedic culture. I know my Guru Maharaj is very strict, but in Hungary, for example, on the farm, because they control the whole place, there's one gate coming in. They actually do not allow any ladies to come in if they're not dressed decently. And they have, and if they do come and are not dressed decently, then they will give them clothes to put on top before they come to the temple.
Yeah, this is excellent. In
Before the
India, we do
temple.
as well, in Gurdwaras.
So, but when it's their buchu means like a public open day for anyone to come to New Vrajadam. Then it's difficult for them to keep that same standard. They're more, okay, they're all coming as guests. But other than that time, then ladies can't just come in dressed like, dressed in a unchaste or in not like that. But so I would say that, Mother Jamavatim, and your point is taken, and I think it's good. I think what you're doing is a good example as well. And as Mother Lavangalatika said, it really, I mean, I don't know all, but most of these sannyasis or spiritual masters, well, actually, perhaps a few of them don't, but a lot of them do emphasize and like and expect, because we're all trying to develop, we're all trying to practice spiritual life. So we want to make it easy for each other. We don't want to make it more difficult than what it actually is. So therefore, taking on aspects of the Vedic culture, like for instance, not over associating with men and women. That helps. Like when we take prasadam, then we take prasadam in, we sit together with the men and sit together with the ladies, sit together. So we try and maintain that as well. But sometimes we see our youth, the younger members of ISKCON, sometimes they don't follow that. They're very open in their association between male and female, which obviously leads to its obvious consequences and problems. But there's some thoughts on that, and I think you brought up a good point.
Should be reason a little bit more, like that's why we do all this Bhakti Shastri, it also speaks there a little bit how we should behave and how we should dress appropriately.
Bhakti Sastri doesn't. Oh yeah, if you do Bhakti Sastri in Mayapur, or if you go to Mayapur, then you're expected to dress a certain way. Is that what you mean? If you attend the classes, yeah.
Because you do more courses, and they explain there how a man dress and how a woman dress, and what is expectation, and the hair, how it should be tied up and how it should be covered. And I think I learned when I learned. It says like
woman has to learn decency. Woman has to learn decency because now we're following Shurpanaka's fashion, long nails, ugly makeup.
Yeah, excuse me, but I just found it interesting. I was when you use the Shurpanaka, the way of dressing.
This is Shurpanaka style. If you read Valmiki's Ramayana, how he describes Shurpanaka, this is exactly what we're doing.
But also,
and this is embarrassing because young generation following.
Yeah, but also some ladies are not really aware. They're brought up in this Western culture, and some of them are not.
Doesn't matter. In my country, in Russia, ladies understand. In Lithuania, in all countries, they understand the decency. In the temple, they even covering heads sometimes. All the. Yeah, but in England is now finished.
Yeah, I think in America, in Europe, in Europe and Australia, I think it's a bit more difficult to get everyone on board and to.
Because there is no example. Nobody says, what is it? If we don't say, they don't know. How we can know? We have to start saying, we have to start showing, we have to talk in our classes, lectures, or to put short notice, for example, Sankirtana forum or somewhere, short notices that decency, again, ladies don't know. When I told them, they said, we didn't know that. Because another point is, when lady goes with loose hair, her mind will never be calm. She cannot focus chanting japa. She cannot focus anything. She's loose. She's distracted. And that's the problem coming when clients, my girls coming with problems. They can focus, they're losing taste. I said, are you going with loose hair? Yeah, I have to. Okay, I said, okay, I can't help you. You have to choose. You want loose hair and lots of problems, or you want decency, because this is hair. Hair is like antennas, catching all from everywhere. And if you go loose hair, finished. Man and woman are different. Man can go with loose hair. There is no problem. But woman is different. She needs to be honest, Prabhu, she has to cover her hair. She has to cover. But I'm not talking about that because I'll be stoned. I'll be stoned to death about this.
Even men close our shikas.
We've gone on
because
a bit.
if we don't have our shika tied up, it means we are ready for scandal.
No, Prabhu, that's what I'm saying. But when you start your hair nicely tidy, your mind is peaceful. You're pacified. You know what's happening. All your mind in each drawers. Everything is clear for you, and that's why woman is like this. Because we can't help. Nobody can help if you can't help yourself. So that's.
Yeah. All right, thank you. They're very valuable points. Anybody else like to comment on this? It's
I just came back just now. I've heard like Indian culture is like woman's beauty is in her hair. Isn't that right, Kishori? Yes, it's beauty is in her hair. So normally women would have a nice one plait or a ambodi, what do you call it?
Always tied, put into a bun.
Yeah, bun. That's it.
Yeah. Or plaited properly and then put into a bun.
Yeah, Indian culture is like that.
They say that is even aristocracy. If you see the queen and their hair are all properly done, and they always have a hat on the head as well. They cover their head.
Yeah,
the hair is looked after properly.
So I guess the main point is coming across. Mother Jambavati is helping us to perhaps be a bit more proactive in our own little way. Those we're preaching to, those who we meet, young girls or whatever, younger generation, try and help them to understand the importance of our culture. Yeah. Thank you, Mother Jambavati, for bringing that up. I think you have a valid point.
Yeah, and also there is a science behind it. She's very right. Like if you have your hair tied back, you can generally, you have a different consciousness when your hair is tied back than if it's loose. It's totally true.
Wow.
So the actual science behind, hairstyle, it's not like just something that we just do without, it makes no difference. It makes a huge difference for everybody else as well as yourself. I mean,
I guess it's a science. I mean, things we see in Vedic culture are not done whimsically. It's based on that. It's culture. It's a science. It's Vedic culture, and it helps to keep us, not us, helps to keep everyone focused on the real goal, which is to develop spiritually.
I gave example for the girls. I said, girls, if I come now with loose hair and mini skirt, what your first thought would be seeing me like this? And they said, but you're looking for a man, for a husband.
Yeah.
I said, you see, I didn't say anything. I said, just I'm short. So it means when we go like this, we're disturbing brahmacharis, we disrespect ourselves because we're on the market. And it means, well, it means it's discrepancy. We're lying when we're preaching. Because
I
when
know,
we
Mother,
preach,
but sorry to interrupt you, but we can't do moral policing for everyone. It has
not
to
for
come
everyone,
from
for
within, you
initiators.
know?
No,
It
no,
has
for
to come from within.
Yeah, but you understand, if we start saying them, because they don't know, we have to help them, we have to say, and especially when we distribute books or talking to somebody, yeah, and in Harinam, especially in Harinams, young girls going with naked bellies, okay, cholies doesn't matter, but we lose hair, they all sexualized, they all looking, and people are laughing and said, are you talking about four regulative principle? Come on, you live under one roof, both girls will lose hair, and boys, and you say you keep the celibacy. Stop joking. Nobody believes. I can't look people in the eyes. You understand? No, this is a joke.
Yeah.
We have to, at least in Harinams, at least to Harinams, we cannot tell to the guests fine. But initiated girls living in the temple or somebody aspiring, they have to following our standards. We have to follow.
Can
Yeah,
I also
okay.
add something?
Yes, please, Mother Gaia. Yes, please. Go ahead. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
So a month ago, I logged into the Srimad Bhagavatam class, which I was promoting very much in Chandravali's group, which I don't go anymore, because the speaker was a young lady and she's sitting in front of, in Zoom, and her hair is going down over her breast, like loose. And I wrote a message like, Mataji, why is your hair loose? You're giving us a Srimad Bhagavatam class. You're distracting us. It's not appropriate. You know what they did? They kicked me out of the group. It was a genuine question. Like, I can't concentrate because I see your loose hair. It's very.
This was Srimad Bhagavatam class here, not at our temple, no?
No, I think it's a manor gang. I don't know who.
Anyway,
mostly manor. But it's like, and even in this, we had this volunteer evening.
Yeah.
Half, if not more, of ladies lose hair. All the ladies in the reception, except Manjari Gopika, because we spoke to her, everybody had loose hair. It's inexplicable. Why?
Yeah, it's kind of it's an ongoing what's becoming quite an ongoing struggle is to bring devotees on board of our cultural aspects of Krishna consciousness. There's some aspects of there's some devotees who deliberately speak against it in order to so-called attract the Westerners. It's quite a discussion, even in the high echelons of our society, of how to present Krishna consciousness. Do we present the whole Vedic package, or do we make, or like, do we not, so we can attract people? This thing tying, I know there's one preaching part of our movement. They're part of ISKCON, but they eschew anything Indian or Vedic. They don't encourage ladies to cover their hair. They just encourage them to chant, and they don't put these expectations on them. In the name of,
but it's impossible focus.
Yeah, I know, but
no.
Yeah, but I'm just saying what's it. So it is different. there's different preaching strategies as well. So you were seeing a lot of crossover. We're seeing a lot of some devotees and completely disregarding the culture, and others really see it as important. So in a temple like ours, you're going to see a lot of different.
Yes.
You're going to see a lot of different devotees following different levels of practice and culture.
That's it.
But if you go to Hungary, for example, you see everyone's got to be hair covered, you know, dressed all decently. Everyone has a sari. Like even when we have a Zoom, we have Zooms with my Guru Maharaj, who does a disciple Zoom. There must be 300 people there on Zoom. And no one's allowed to be on Zoom. And everyone has to have their camera on. They have to have dhoti or sari on. They have to wear tilak. That's a rule that my Guru Maharaj makes on Zoom.
Can I say something about this? Also, I've been to Hungary temple and I had 2 color socks, and they told me to go change my socks and put two socks with the same color.
Yeah.
If Shivaram Swami Maharaj is coming, he will tell me off. So I need to have the same socks. And I went and changed my socks. Very strict.
Yeah, there's no beards there. No one can have a beard and live on the farm or stay on the farm. So because my Guru Maharaj is my Guru Maharaj. He's in a chariot there, so he has the potency, he has the authority to create the atmosphere. But in our temple, and even in the manor, unfortunately, it's so diverse, their congregation. So many different devotees with different spiritual masters, and so you're not going to see the best all the time from everyone. You know, this is a challenge we have as we go on in developing Krishna consciousness.
I think the more emphasis is on, if we get them to chant, then if they chant better and better and things, they will change from within. But if you start pushing them from the beginning, you might just...
Yeah, that's the point that
that's the point how we are doing.
Shari just brought up as well. Like, yeah, so the timings of when we might start to educate devotees in these principles of our culture, dressing us, for example, that's up to the skill of the preacher.
Yeah.
In order
Initiated devotees should know that. They should keep strictly.
Yeah,
And younger devotees will follow. They will follow because they see example. Only by example we can teach them.
Yeah, I think it's a case of both. I don't think it's one or the other. Example is the most powerful. You know, example is better than precept. So if the example is there to follow, they'll be easy to hear instructions when they get told about the more cultural aspects of our practice, if they see other devotees in the community also following. Anyway, we've gone off a bit of a sidetrack, but I think it's important discussion. It's good. But I think let's just have a take home from this. Let us be aware of these things, and wherever we can, try to educate devotees. Especially when as a brahmachari, not really my place to start telling ladies how to dress or not. But definitely if you're in your preaching circles and persons you're meeting and friendships you're developing, you know, you can help ladies, you can help to educate, you know. All right.
The ones who've been initiated should dress properly, should tie their hair, things like, they should do things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone should be kicked off a group for commenting that somebody has their hair loose. I mean,
sounds
outrageous.
That was the speaker, and they didn't even reply. They just kicked me out. I thought I got disconnected. I tried twice more, and they kicked me out.
No, I mean, you should complain about it. You should complain, because that is totally out of line. I think it was a valid comment, and they should have respectfully.
I was very polite. I didn't speak out. I just wrote a message. You know, they didn't like it.
Yeah, and they should have respectfully replied and said, "We appreciate your comment, but this is how we do it here." But they should have appreciated your comment and not kicked you out, because it was a good comment. I mean, to kick you out for that reason is totally, like, not good.
Yeah, you could take them to court, mother guy. Okay.
Yeah, it's from
Dis-
court.
Yeah,
It's
discrimination.
I think these programs are there for cultivating new devotees, so they have
Yeah.
a lead.
Yeah,
You know,
so
early
So
learn.
they're saying like tolerance, we've got to appreciate everybody, but they can't appreciate somebody who wants a standard. That's the thing. They will like let their standards fall just on the hope that new people will be attracted by their loose hair, which is kind of ridiculous supposition.
That's the danger.
If I wear loose hair, people will be more attracted. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. When are you going to tie your hair up in that case? You're always going to have your hair down, or just, I mean, I think you should be allowed to make a comment like that and not be kicked out.
Oh,
I don't think it was a good thing to do to somebody, because they have a standard they think that everybody should follow. If you're a speed. Anyway, that's my opinion, my humble opinion. I hope you don't kick me out for that. But
take you off to Zoom.
We should have Vaishnav etiquette Zoom classes,
We should make a temple course on etiquette for everybody who's there. Yeah, would be nice.
Vaishnav etiquette, yeah.
Yeah.
To teach you. Yeah, I think we
get our Guru Maharaj to come back and teach us Vaishnav etiquette.
But I think it might be good. I think I was speaking to Doimod Prabhu today about mentorship and going forward and things like that. It sounded quite a very encouraging conversation. But I think it's up to, for importance, the those who are leading groups. Jambavati's leading the group, Chandravali, and others there as well. It's up to us to train devotees in the culture. It's not gonna. Don't expect it to come as a law from the GBC that any lady who's initiated must cover her hair at all times. The GBC is not going to come.
But we have to
It's
talk.
going to come from I'm just saying, in the little groups that we have in our preaching groups, because we mentioned about don't wait for a etiquette seminar to manifest in the temple. But for all of you is to, preach these principles and help them to understand their importance. So that we can do.
Yeah.
But you understand your comment, and they're saying, yes, only you saying, nobody else told. I've been in the temple and nobody said me anything, and everybody is going with loose hair. So
So that's not so good.
I have nothing else to say. I have nothing else to say because I'm the only one who is saying that. Only one. Somebody was joking. Jambavati, are you jealous with loose hair? I said, no, I'm not jealous. I had hair myself. But I said, when I see somebody with loose hair, I cannot focus. I'm looking at both loose hair. If you are naked legs, I'm looking at your naked legs. And I do understand how man has to feel.
Yeah.
You understand?
I think also again, let's just emphasize that point. I think also we have to be careful as well. Someone who's just coming for the first time, the first 2 or 3 times, and they're just coming in the door, so to speak, then we don't want to perhaps give them the ultimatum straight away. We have to get to know them. We have to develop a relationship, and then they'll be ready to willing. And if they're making some commitment to Krishna consciousness and there's some relationship there, then we can give them further instructions. Yeah.
Yes, of course, Prabhu. Guests are coming even not for 1 to 3 times. They're coming for years. Guests. We're not serious. We can't tell them anything. We cannot teach them how to live. But especially those who are aspiring or who already have initiation, even second initiation, and they will lose hair. To be honest, I'm shocked. And even serving for the deities with loose hair. I don't want to have anybody's hair on my body in the temple or anything. I don't want my hair to fall on me. Of course, in the street we do, but in the temple we have to show example. Only I would say we should stress only for initiated devotees and aspiring and those who doing service. And young devotees will take example. We learn from that. Just need support. We have to know. We have to know, because only I'm saying, or Chandravali will be saying, everybody will laugh out in our face, because they'll say, nobody else say, only you see, you need support.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm on your side, mother, too. If
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. I'll be stoned. I think I'll be stoned soon.
I'm sure.
We'll be picked up, Jambavati, soon.
I think this type of topical conversation is quite good. I mean, sometimes we can do that if you like. Well, I'll be going away to India tomorrow, so we're going to be paused. But we can have, like, if you want, we can have a night where we do questions and answers, or we can just discuss the culture, and share ideas.
I love it. I love it. I've been thinking so long. I've been crying on everybody's shoulder about that. Chandravali Mataji knows I didn't know where to go.
Yeah, he gave me a
Thank you.
headache one day. I'm in the pujari, and if I see anybody without their hair covered, or if their hair is loose, I will speak up. I know I would.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I would.
I think we need to understand why we do certain things. It's not that a doctor, when he goes to have a surgery, to give a surgery, he dress appropriately, how you say, because to do a procedure. So if you go, it's like it was in also Bhagavad Gita class in the temple. It says, you want to go to see Krishna in shorts. You should not go in shorts to see Krishna, because it's not like appropriately.
Believe it or not, many years ago, I had one senior devotee. He's not a Prabhupada disciple, but he's been around 30 years, similar to me, 33, 35 years. And he asked us, I could see he wanted to speak to me. I was quite busy, and eventually we spoke. And he seriously put forward the proposal that we allow devotees to worship the deities wearing t-shirt and trousers. Rather than dhoti. And he wasn't joking. It was a serious proposal he was making. And he came, and this is when Mahajuti Prabhu, I think, was, he was TP. And no, was it Mahajuti? No, it was Janitai. Yeah, Janitai was TP. And he wanted to give class, and he's a learned devotee, and he wanted to give class, but he insisted that he gave class not wearing dhoti. Of course, Janitai took issue to that, and Janitai correctly stood his ground and said sorry, because he was pushing this. He was part of the, ISKCON 70, part of a specific aspect of our preaching, Krishna West, and he was trying to push that. I couldn't believe that was like, so imagine that the ladies on the altar, dressed in, anyway.
But
anyway,
Bhaktivedanta manner, often there is a people sitting on Vyasasan giving lectures. They got beard, they haven't shaved their hair.
Yeah, it's not so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's try and help in our individual worlds and our little universes, and try and encourage others to follow. Then we can follow this verse we read today, and not become, or we can not follow this verse. All right, it's gone 7 o'clock, so we think we got 2 verses today, or was it one? No, 1 verse we did today. No, 2. 2. So it's very good. I think these discussions are good. It's a good discussion we had, and if anyone wants to bring up other topics like this for like a Ishtagosti, then we can help. You can invite other devotees as well that want to take part in the Ishtagosti on a specific aspect of our temple and the culture. We can always do that. You just let us know beforehand. Me or Chandravali know, and we can have a topical, like one evening we can discuss, specific topics,
So
Prabhu, you are going to India, so how are we going to handle?
Well,
Will you be
I'm
giving
going.
class?
Well, for the first
Shall we
two.
pause the recording, Murli Prabhu?
Oh, yeah. So yeah. More. Stop.